If you are new to Tesla or electric vehicles, doing a road trip can be a completely daunting task. In a gas car, it's super easy. You just hop in the car, you drive to your destination. If you want to stop for gas or take a bathroom break or get something to eat, you can do that at basically any exit. With EVs, unfortunately, it's not that easy, but with Tesla's built-in features and supercharger network, it can be very simple. But even with that being the case, there are some things you can do before, during, and after you arrive to make the road trip much more enjoyable. All of these tips I'll be going over do focus mainly on Tesla vehicles, but a lot of them do apply to other EVs as well, so you might find that useful if you don't drive a Tesla. So let's hop into it. Before you drive, the most important thing, especially for me, I like to plan a lot of things out, is planning your route. I like to plan everything from charging stops to bathroom breaks to food stops, basically everything. This is absolutely not necessary, but definitely gives me a lot more peace of mind and can definitely do the same for you. An app I recommend for this is a Better Route Planner. You can check that out in my video I did on EV charging apps. I do a little deeper dive into the app and do an example road trip in there. So if you want to check that out, I'll have that link down below and in the upper right. But basically, I really like this app because it has a ton of different variables you can change and adjust to really plan your route ahead of time and plan all of your charging stops along the way. Next thing I like to do is check for chargers at my destination. Perhaps one of the most important parts of road tripping is actually having charging at your destination. The last thing you want to do is drive thousands of miles and not have a place to plug in when you arrive. So if you're staying with friends and family, you can probably just call them and see if it's okay if you use an outlet in their garage or something. But if you are staying in a hotel, it's probably good to check on PlugShare or on their website to see if they have EV charging available. And it's probably best to choose a hotel that actually has EV charging. On top of that, you probably do want to give them a call as well and see what their rules around charging are. Some hotels, if they just have one EV charging there, it's probably not that big a deal, but when you get multiple people with EVs staying there at the same time, you might have to take turns with somebody else charging, so it's good to know those rules ahead of time. It's also a good idea to check out where the chargers are around the area you'll be traveling to, because you're probably going to be doing a little bit of driving around once you reach your destination. You're not just going to be sitting in the hotel. And it's good to know where those chargers are available. You can usually find some free local ones, and that's always a plus. And they'll definitely be faster than just charging on a regular 120 volt outlet. So after you've done all the planning necessary for your road trip, it's time to head out to the car and get that prepared for the trip as well. So when you get out to your car, the first thing you want to do is make sure you have your mobile connector on you. You never know when you might need this in a pinch, and it might be your only charging option when you actually reach your destination. If you've got additional charging adapters, you probably want to bring those as well, because the more charging options you have, the better. Next thing you can do is reduce as much weight in the vehicle as possible. Less weight equals less energy to actually push you down the road. So if you've got extra things in your car that you might not need, get rid of those. Or if you've got extra passengers in there that you don't need, you can leave them at home. Another way to improve efficiency is to put on your aero wheels. If you've got a Model 3 with the aero wheels, I definitely suggest putting these on. It can add about 3 to 4% to your efficiency, which doesn't sound like a lot, but can definitely add up over a lot of miles. Next thing I suggest is going into your car and setting your charge limit all the way up to 100%. It's always good to have a little extra buffer. Even with all the steps I've mentioned so far, you never know what you're going to run into and what kind of weather you might hit that might reduce your efficiency, and having that extra range helps out a ton. You can also go into the car and schedule your departure so your car is all ready to go and climate controlled, and charge all the way up right before you leave. So once you're ready to start your road trip, you can either plug in your destination. So let's say we go into like Los Angeles or something like that, and the car will route you through superchargers to reach that destination. Or if you've planned your route ahead of time, you can just plug in the next charger that you want to hit. So let's say we want to go to the Polaris supercharger, I can just hit that there and it'll bring us to our next charger. The reason you do want to plug in a charger into your navigation is so that your car will preheat the battery before you stop to supercharge. This will speed up your charging stops and get your battery ready to charge before you arrive. So once you actually hop on the highway, first thing you want to do is definitely enable Autopilot. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Just double click on the stock here. And as soon as I enable that, I usually turn up the speed a little bit because it's just defaulted to the speed limit. So I usually put it about 5 miles over. And then I also make sure my following distance is the longest it can be. I have some cars cut in front of you, but that's not a huge deal. It's probably a lot safer anyway. Just a reminder here too, Autopilot is not a replacement for driving. This is just a driver assistance feature, so don't use any of those Autopilot nag devices to avoid getting around, making sure you're actually touching the steering wheel. If I do get any kind of nag notice on here where it starts flashing blue, I usually just touch the scroll wheels here. That's an easy way to just show the Autopilot that you're paying attention and you don't have to actually tug on the steering wheel. When you are driving, a better way to check for your estimated range is to actually look at the energy tab. This uses your driving data over the past 30 miles to estimate what your range remaining is and is a little more accurate than the standard battery display. If you are driving along and for some reason you see that your range is depleting a little bit quicker than normal, there are a few things you can do. First thing is definitely just to slow down. This puts less strain on the motors, which in turn uses less energy and will use less energy from your battery. The next thing you can do is actually coast behind semis. Even if you're at the farthest following distance, like I am in this shot here that Autopilot allows, this will save you a ton of energy since the semi is taking the brunt of all that air resistance. So the last thing you can do, which is definitely a worst case scenario, is either turn off or just reduce the HVAC system. This can help improve efficiency, especially in more extreme conditions. If you can avoid blasting the heat or cold on a trip, this helps a lot. So after you've been driving for a little bit and you are getting close to making a charging stop, about 10 to 15 minutes prior, you should see that your battery is preconditioning for that charging stop. And again, this is just so your charging goes faster and your battery doesn't have to adjust its temperature after you plug in. So once you actually arrive at the supercharging location, you probably want to kind of scout it out ahead of time and make sure you are leaving room between yourself and other cars. Tesla actually splits power between like-numbered supercharging stalls, so if somebody is charging in stall 2A, avoid parking in 2B. This ensures that you're going to get the maximum charge rate and will help speed up that charging stop. Another tip for supercharging stations, once you actually decide which spot you want to park in, is to back up pretty far. The cables are not very long and you need to be pretty close to the curbs to make sure you can actually plug in your car. On the navigation screen here too, it'll show you if you are on a longer trip how much longer you need to charge. So I've already hit that time there, so the next charging stop is in Dayton. So once you're done charging, you can just hit begin trip and it'll route you to the next supercharger. If you are on a charging stop and you are done charging, it's probably a good idea to move away from the supercharger stall because there might be other people that are on their way to charge or people that are actually waiting to charge. So if you are done charging, go ahead and move your car and free up those spaces for other people. So once you arrive at your destination, again, it's probably good to confirm with whoever is hosting you whether or not you're allowed to plug in and make sure you know all the rules around plugging in if you are at a hotel. And once that's confirmed, it's good to actually plug your car in. The Tesla manual says that it is best to leave your car plugged in when it is idle. It's better for the battery and you'll also keep your car charged up so you're ready to go when you leave the hotel or wherever you're staying. But after that, enjoy your destination. It's always a fun time trying to find some free local charging spots around the area that you're visiting. You've probably learned a lot just traveling there, so when it is time to go home, you can take all of that input and change up your road trip on the way home if necessary to make it even more enjoyable. So those are a few of the things that I've learned after doing a few road trips in my Model 3, but I definitely missed some things, so if I did, let me know down in the comments below. If you want to see me do a whole road trip vlog where I take the camera with me and kind of share my whole experience on a road trip, definitely hit that like button and I will make that happen. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next one.